Canford Lady, the final three are Torcello, Young Dev and Achievers. They come up now to pass the judge. A circuit of the track in front of them, and they've got 6 more flights to jump as they go to the one along the side of the track. In the lead is Park Paddock.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. Some nice racing, of course, at Gulfstream this afternoon, in New York at Aqueduct, but also some nice stakes action at various venues around the country. Laurel has some nice stakes action. A little bit later, we'll be joined by Nancy Holthus from Oaklawn. They have a nice slate of stakes highlighted by the Rebel. Also going to talk to Brad Cox a little bit later on. He has some interesting horses in all the stakes down at Oaklawn, but we're also going to touch on his really nice filly, Monomoy Girl, his 3-year-old Exclamation Point, the sibling to Classic Empire, undefeated in a couple of starts, and an update also on Arklow, his nice turf runner. So Brad Cox towards the end of the program. But top of the show, we're going to be joined by Mike Battaglia, of course, longtime voice of Kentucky racing, longtime NBC racing analyst, now working with Turfway Park. Part of that is you can find Mike's picks on the Turfway Park website on racing days. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. How are you, Seth?
Very good. Happy to have you on board. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I wore my green tie.
Well, see, I'm Italian descent, but I'll put something green on too today.
You got to. I'm a Syracuse alumni, so I almost wore my orange tie in commemoration of their win last night.
Yeah.
But I bought it when they got in the Final Four a couple of years ago. So I guess for luck, I'm saving that for the Final Four. But are you a horse racing fan, and will there be as big an upset in racing anywhere today as UMBC last night?
Oh, I'll tell you what. I love the tournament. I love watching the NCAA tournament, and you never know what's going to happen with these guys. You never know. I can't see any huge upsets today at Turfway, but you never know.
Nothing of that magnitude. That was a lot of fun to watch as the tournament. I'm with you.
I didn't see it, to be honest with you, because I'm been a bit under the weather. I had a hip replacement last Wednesday, and I'm just about recovered. And I was in bed by 9:30 last night.
Oh, so how are you feeling now?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to the track today, so
okay.
that ought to make me feel better.
Is there a rehab period to that? Where you go for some physical therapy kind of things?
Well, I've been doing physical therapy, but it's only been 7 days. So,
okay.
But I feel pretty good. It's
great.
It's a process, but we'll see how it goes today.
We wish you the best, and we're happy you're on with us this morning. As I said to you before the show started, I thought we'd concentrate on that pick 4 that's all stakes, starting with the Rushaway, the Kentucky Cup Classic, the Bourbonnette Oaks, and the JR Stakes, which of course is the old Spiral. Before we get into the races themselves, however, what's the weather look like down your way?
It's not a good day.
Okay.
We've got some rain predicted, high about 40s, in the mid 40s. So, not ideal conditions, but we got the poly track, so that usually doesn't get affected too much by the rain. If anything, the rain kind of tightens it up, makes it a little bit faster. But it's kind of track, where when I go out there, I'm gonna see how the first few races play, see if speed's holding, see if it's not. You know how it is with tracks. You gotta watch a couple races before you make any definite plays to me,
Yeah.
especially with Turfway.
Absolutely, but as you say, that's the beauty of the synthetic surface. Doesn't
Yeah.
take as much of a hit in wet weather. Let's jump in the Rushaway this afternoon for 3-year-olds going 1 1/16. Road to Damascus comes in for Todd Pletcher. Obviously, with those connections, the horse will take some action. Broke the maiden 2-back with a good number at Tampa, then tossed in a dud at Oaklawn in the Southwest. He'll be interesting, though. Al Stahl brings in Alternative Route. Honorable Treasure, I thought, could be interesting from Ken McPeak. Hasn't been seen since trying a couple of stakes, 2-year-old stakes at the end of last year at Belmont and Churchill Downs. But looking at your selections, I know you're kind of tilting maybe towards Year of the Kitten. We pulled up the Churchill race from last November 26th. This is the career debut for Year of the Kitten. Year of the Kitten will be the number 1 horse, wins at 8-1. Subsequently came back and kind of threw in a clunker down at Gulfstream. But it's interesting, our friend Jeremy Plonk from HorsePlayerNow.com, when he does his Countdown to the Crown package in the preseason, he looks at a lot of trends. And one of the trends he likes this big day at Turfway is those Gulfstream Park turf runners coming up and moving to the synthetic surface. So even though his seasonal debut wasn't necessarily eye-popping, to say the least, it was on that turf down at Gulfstream. Talk a little bit about your thoughts on the Rushaway.
Yeah, well, number one, there's just way too much early speed in here. There's all the horses with the better credentials, they want to be in front, and I think the pace is going to really be a quick pace. So I started looking definitely for a horse to come off. Always look for Mike Maker on big days here at Turfway. Tyler Gaffley on aboard. They came in, of course, to win the Spiral last year at 25-1. Horse that I made a little score on. But you always watch him. Forget that last race. This was a prep for today. I think this horse will run much better. Kenny Ramsey loves to win the races on big days, so I think this is a very live horse. I also think Violent Storm, the 2-horse, is another one that's going to be really running at the end. This horse has gotten progressively better. Hasn't been out since that maiden breaker back in November, but love the way he closed to win that day. Nick Juarez picks up the mount. Brendan Walsh, pretty solid with horses coming back off the layoff. He's almost 25% with horses coming off of this kind of layoff. So those were my kind of 2 top horses. I figure both of them are going to be running at the end. I thought, one of them might be able to get the job done. It's a wide open race.
Yeah, you mentioned something that made me think, and as a guy who does some handicapping, and as they say, your selections can be found on the Turfway website, I'll ask you, because I do the handicapping show here in the afternoon many days a week, and one of the things I say is, one of the pieces of information you don't really pay attention to on the PPs is the owner line, except for a handful of owners. Up here in New York, you have to pay attention to anything Michael Dubb sends out. Matthew Shearer at various venues around the country the last year or so has been a guy you pay attention to. But I always say, you really have to pay attention to Ken and Sarah Ramsey.
Oh, I'll tell you, Kenny Ramsey, Ken and Sarah Ramsey, it's been about, 3 years, where they won like 31 races at the Keeneland meet in 16 days. No owner will ever do that again. It was absolutely unbelievable. Kenny loves to win races in Kentucky. Now, he's cut back from those in the last couple of years. He's cut back on some of his horses, but they'll be fine with Year of the Kitten, I guarantee you that.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, fun guy. I've had him on up at Saratoga when we were live on the backstretch, and he's fun to talk to.
Great guy, great bettor. He puts his money where his mouth is, and he's not shy about it. And he'll give you an honest opinion. If he's going to bet on a horse, he'll tell you, yeah, I'm betting on this horse. I really like him. Kenny's been a good friend of mine for years, and I like a guy that'll go up and put his money where his mouth is.
Great Twitter picture of him from maybe a week or 2 ago. He's down in Barbados on horseback in the surf on some beach.
No,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not on. I don't do the Twitter or the Facebook, anything like that. I can't believe Kenny does. Somebody had to put that on.
Yeah, I think somebody put it up there. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. All right, let's move on to the Kentucky Cup Classic. Race number 8 this afternoon, Milan in 8th. Nice little field in here. Senior Investment comes in from New York most recently, a couple of races up at Aqueduct at the end of last year for Kenny McPeak. Chip Leader moves into the Todd Pletcher barn, and again, because of that, I think will be interesting. Most recently seen on the turf down at Fairgrounds, but he has plenty of early speed. Designed for War comes up from Gulfstream. Well, I say comes up from Gulfstream. The most recent races were at Gulfstream, but they were about this time last year. So Designed for War with a 104 buyer figure in the last race certainly will attract some attention, but the layoff is a concern. But Mike Maker trains. I know, however, again, looking at your selections, Royal Sun kind of stood out to you a little bit. We're going to take a look at the Prairie Bayou down at Turfway on December 29th. This is a nice win. He'll be the number 10 horse in here, but maybe more importantly, I'm a buyer guy. Boy, that 105 buyer jumps off the page. Your thoughts on the Classic?
Yeah, Royal Sun, I'm telling you, this horse, he just loves Turfway. And he's a good horse anywhere you go. But he's really, really good right now. His last win, he won that race so easily. This is a tough field. I'm just so glad to see the Kentucky Cup Classic back. You know, in its heyday, this horse, you had Breeders' Cup winners coming out of the Classic, and they just we haven't. When we lost our September meet, well, we lost the Kentucky Cup Classic before that. Then we lost the whole meet. But I just love to get it back. But I'd like to see it coming back, even though it is only $100,000. This is a heck of a field for $100,000. I think you got to beat Royal Sun. I know this is a much tougher field. Chip Leader scares me to death. First time running for Pletcher. He's on that win streak. He should like the Poly. He's the speed. He goes right to the front. I mean, I see nothing to run with him. Drayden Van Dyke coming in to ride. I think he's going to be very tough to beat. And of course, Mike Maker's got 3 of them in here. Kenny McPeak's got 2. Kenny loves to win races here on big days too, and he usually has his horses ready to fire. This is just a tough race. I wouldn't key on Royal Sun at 2-1, but I do think that this is a legitimate horse they're going to have to beat. We talked about Mike Maker. Look what he did with Designed for War. Claimed this horse for $75,000. He's a 6-year-old. Jumped in and claimed him for $75,000. First time he runs him back, grade 2 gets beat ahead with a 104 buyer. The guy's, it's unbelievable. It's not the first time he's done that. He's claimed horses that have won grade 1s in their next start. So you have to respect him. And then Kenny and Sarah Ramsey got Camelot Kitten. And then you got Fast and Accurate, who won the Spiral last year. That's Maker's horse that won the Spiral last year at 24-1. I think he's a little overmatched in here, but he actually might be the horse that they use to go out and run with Chip Leader, so one of the other ones can be running late.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun field, and I'm with you. Chip Leader with that early speed may prove to be very, very dangerous. We'll see where he is on the backstretch, if he can open up a little ground. All right, let's go to the Bourbonnette Oaks, as the name would imply. These are 3-year-old fillies. They will go a mile at Turfway on Saturday afternoon. Again, nice fun field. Consolida came in from Europe. Tried the synthetic at Golden Gate last time and won the California Oaks. That was only the 3rd career start. There might still be some upside for Consolida. Queen's Fate, I think, has a little bit of potential, shown earlier in the career. Tried a turf stake at Gulfstream last time, was well beaten. But the winner that day was The Way I Am, who I think if we were putting a top 10 or a top 3 on the subdivision of 3-year-old fillies on the turf, The Way I Am would probably be number 1. So no disgrace getting beaten in that one. In the Mood, a nice race last time at Turfway and a little stakes race. But we're going to pull up a race from December 24th at Gulfstream Park. This is going to be Go Noni Go. She will be the number 8 horse in here. This was 2 races back, and again, it was that Gulfstream Park turf, which can be productive when moving to the Turfway synthetic. This was 2 races back. She followed up also in that Swedish Chant and also finished behind The Way I Am. She was a little bit closer, however, than Queen's Fate. She was only 5th by less than 4 lengths. But this win kind of signified her talent. Your thoughts on the Bourbonnette Oaks?
Yeah, that was a really, really strong race, the Swedish Chant. The Way I Am came back and won a graded stake. The horse that ran 3rd came back and won the Florida Oaks. So that was extremely strong. She's definitely my top pick in here. I think she's going to be awfully tough to beat. She's got tactical speed. Love the way she drew off in that race prior to the Swedish Chant. She's really good right now. Tyler Gaffleone aboard. I think she's going to be really tough. Bet She Wins, though. I'll tell you what, this horse on synthetic back in the Arlington, Washington Lassie, this horse just was so impressive. Drew off, won by 9 lengths that day, ran about second and a half faster than the boys in the Futurity that day. She came into the Alcibiades. I kind of liked her in there. She really lost to her best chance at the start. She's been off since the Alcibiades. Chris Block, good. He's not great with horses coming back off the long layoff. I think he's going to have this one ready, though, and I think she's going to show a little bit more early speed, so I think she's going to be very tough in there, too. You mentioned Queen's Fate coming out of the same race as Go Noni Go. Never discount, as I said, Mike Maker. I know she got beat 17 lengths, but I think that's a contender, too. And you mentioned the other horse, Consolida. How good is she? I don't know how good she is coming over from Europe and running that way at the Fairgrounds. That was a big race. But to me, Go Noni Go off of those last 2 races and the way that they came back out of the Swedish Chant, that makes her look pretty solid in here.
I will say, though, as you talked, I took a second look at Bet She Wins, and I have to admit the overall numbers weren't jumping off the page, but you made the great point. The Arlington, Washington Lassie was on the synthetic. That was her only synthetic try, and that 90 Beyer she fired that day is the highest in the field.
Oh yeah, and it was legitimate. I mean, she hit the gate coming out of the start. She just ran huge that day. I was so impressed with her. I bet on her in the Alcibiades, even though that was a strong field. But I took a shot with her. I lost my money, but I kind of been waiting for her to come back, and I think she could. I think she could be a player.
Yeah, I'm taking an extra look at her now today. All right, let's go to the highlight of the afternoon. And again, this will wrap up an all-stakes pick 4 at Turfway on Saturday afternoon. It's the JR Stakes. And again, it's the old spiral for folks who are kind of following along on the Derby trail. Grade 3 event does offer some Derby points, $200,000 up for grabs, 9 furlongs the trip. And Pony Up is interesting here. Tried the dirt last time in the Holy Bull, but clearly a little bit better on the turf, which probably bodes well for the synthetic this afternoon. Pony Up is a Todd Pletcher horse. Has It, also a Pletcher horse, coming in from a decent try over at Tampa last time. I thought Blended Citizen would be interesting from California in the Doug O'Neill barn. But again, looking at your picks, you kind of thought Ride a Comet may be interesting. And I'll tell people, if they go to the Turfway website, you've got a horse-by-horse, nice printable sheet that goes over the entire field. But again, seemed like you were tilting towards Ride a Comet. We're going to pull up the January 6th Fairgrounds race. He'll be the number 6 in here. Ride a Comet getting it done by a chart margin of over 3 lengths, and now comes up off of that turf event at the Fairgrounds. Your thoughts on the JR Stakes?
I have no idea.
You said Ride a Comet. You said, I think it was a slight nod.
Honest God, I've never made a morning line like this in my life. 2 5-to-1 co-favorites and 4 6-to-1s. Any one of those 6 horses could be the favorite in here. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. I don't have a clue who they're going to bet on. This is the most well-matched field I've ever seen. I did talk to Mark Cassey this morning and asked him about his horses. He said, I wouldn't be surprised if Ride a Comet won. He said, but it's not one of the horses he's in love with. But he said, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if he won the race. I thought this Has It was a little interesting because I think it's probably the speed in here. Was head and head all the way around in a really quick race. Needed that race coming back off the layoff. I like that the horse won it first asking. I like it, the connections. Pletcher's already said that this is not a Derby horse for him. He's just coming in here. This looked like a good spot for Has It along the, to see how good he was, and so he thought he'd take a shot. Only 20 points for the Derby now, or Derby points for this race. This race has lost a bit of its luster, but because we've let's face it, the handle's been down at Turfway, and Churchill decided to cut down on the Derby points. Jeff Ruby jumped in and sponsored the race, and I think the race can still be built up. But this is not a race where, as it's been in the past, whoever wins gets an automatic berth and is a contender. Whoever wins today is going to have to come back and run well again or win another race before they get to the Derby. So this is definitely just a stepping stone, and I really think it's well matched. There's not a key horse in here for me. It's just the more I look at it, the more confused I get.
Well, and then we didn't mention, we've talked earlier about Mike Maker and Kenneth Sayre Ramsey. Cash Call Kitten comes out of a 2-for-2 record so far, including a little stakes race last time down at Gulfstream.
Well, you know what's really interesting about this horse? If you go back and look at last year's winner, the one we just talked about, oh my gosh, Fast and Accurate. If you go back and look at Fast and Accurate, prior to the Spiral, he ran in a maiden $30,000 race and he won. Then he ran in a race called the Sage of McClintock at Gulfstream Park on the turf and won. Look at Cash Call Kitten. Maiden claimer wins, same exact stakes race. Sage of McClintock comes out of the same exact two in a row. That's Fast and Accurate, and he's coming in here, and it's the same rider, Tyler Gaffleone, coming in to ride him. Now he wasn't nearly as impressive as Fast and Accurate was when he won this race last year. That Sage of McClintock race, he ran huge that day. This horse was all out to get there, but he is coming off the same exact two races for Mike Maker. And he's going to be a big price, so can history repeat itself? I wouldn't leave him off my ticket.
That's very interesting. Yeah, folks can look at that race number 8 and look at Fast and Accurate, and comes out of a really similar type of a situation.
Yes.
And I only know because I had to look it up. It's the Sage of Monticello. They do they do those starter stakes races on President's Weekend down at Gulfstream that are the nicknames of presidents. And now I've forgotten which president. Maybe it was Jefferson, but one of them was nicknamed the Sage of Monticello. Yeah, as I say, I had to look it up. I had to look it up. That's how I know. But that is very interesting. So Cash Call Kitten in this afternoon with that similar scenario.
Same two races.
Mike, got to go, but we really appreciate the visit and the insight. Again, I'll remind people they can find your selections on the Turfway Park website. Good luck to you and everybody at Turfway this afternoon. And again, good luck to you on the rehab as well.
Thanks, Seth. I appreciate it. Good luck to everybody this afternoon.
All right, Mike Battaglia, Turfway Park. Nice afternoon of stakes races this afternoon, highlighted by the old Spiral, now the JR Stakes. We'll take a break. When we come back, Nancy Holthus from Oaklawn. Stay tuned.
It may be cold in the Northeast, but in South Florida, the action's hot. This winter, be part of the championship meet at Gulfstream Park, where the fields are deep and the payouts are big. With some of the most competitive turf racing in America, Gulfstream Park is your winter destination for the finest in championship thoroughbred horse racing. And if you're looking for the top jockeys and best trainers, you'll find them all at Gulfstream Park. So play it today. Gulfstream Park. Champions start here.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Thanks to Mike Battaglia for joining us this morning to talk about Turfway, but also stakes action down at Oaklawn highlights Saturday afternoon. The Rebel will be the the top race there, but they have some nice undercard stakes as well. We talked with Nancy Holthus. Now, on a Saturday morning, she does the Dawn at Oaklawn show, and so she wasn't able to come on with us live this morning, but we did catch up with her live yesterday afternoon via phone, so we'll go to that in just a moment. She's going to preview the stakes. Also, I said on OTB Live a couple weeks ago, I had to ask somebody about that waiver rule, part of the claiming game down at Oaklawn, because it seemed like their calendar for getting the waiver condition was a little shorter than it is out in Southern California. So I asked Nancy that too. And luckily she had a condition book right in front of her at the time. So we got an answer to that question also. So right now, Nancy Holthus, Oaklawn Park. Nancy, absolutely appreciate your taking the time.
Oh, well, thank you for making time for me. I appreciate it.
Happy to promote a little Oaklawn racing. I love the Oaklawn product and I've been enjoying this season. Before we get into some of the Saturday action. One thing I wanted to ask a nuts and bolts question, because I do the handicapping show here on the network in the afternoon, and there have been 2 or 3 times this season that I've noticed in the claiming races, there are those waiver races down at Oaklawn. And when those first came out, I thought the game plan was horses that have been on the sideline for 6 months or a year. And I remember it starting out in Southern California. Seems like the time frame is compressed down there at Oaklawn. Do you know that the time frame where the waiver holds up on the claiming scale down there?
Ooh, you know what? I would actually have to look that up. Waiver claiming. It's a minimum of 90 days since the last race as an official starter, and I actually went to that right when I opened the condition book. So, yeah, that's it. Ineligibility to be claimed shall apply only to the first start as an official starter following each such 90-day or longer layoff.
Okay.
So it is only 90 days here. So one of the reasons I think they did that, Seth, is because the claiming game is so hot here at Oaklawn. It's kind of a little bit of protection for those coming in that, want to keep their stable as intact as possible.
Yeah, when they instituted it out, and I think the first place was California, and when they did it, I thought it was a great rule, because if you claim a horse and then you get him in the barn, you realize, we got to put him up for 6 months and do a little work. It just doesn't seem fair that you can't really bring him back for the same price, because now you've invested that amount of 6 months money into the horse. So this I think is fair to everybody. I think it's a great rule. But as I say, I just noticed down at Oaklawn, it seemed to be a shorter time period.
Yeah, so that way, like I said, people can kind of, keep their barn intact just a little bit more before they do have that price tag on them when they come over.
It is very active down there. At the end of every season, they list the number of claims, and they like the claim box at Oaklawn.
That would be an understatement. Yeah, they've already surpassed, I believe, 4 million, something like that. And just thinking about the amount of sales tax, so through 35 days at the meeting, 275 claims have totaled just over $4.2 million. So that's just an insane amount.
I didn't even think about the sales tax. Yeah, Happy Arkansas. There you go.
Yeah, Happy Hot Springs.
Speaking of Happy Hot Springs, I should also toss out, they announced, about a week ago, a purse increase.
Yeah, so that's another great thing. I mean, the purses are great just starting out at the race meet. So this is the second purse increase that we have already had just for the 2018 season. So I'm already anxious to see what the first condition book looks like for 2019. So.
And again, I love the Oaklawn product, and I've been enjoying it this season. Before we get to Saturday afternoon, I wanted to go back to last weekend, though. One of my favorite horses from last year's Oaklawn meet, Whitmore, had his seasonal debut. Disappointing 8th in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Hadn't been seen since then. We'll watch the stretch run of the Hot Springs from last weekend. Whitmore on the seasonal debut, the number 3 horse, wins by a gutsy neck at 7-5. But boy, he's just, he was last season, he was a nice sprinter, and now as a 5-year-old, I think he'll be a player in the sprint division again.
Yeah, super impressive. He was a 6th-length winner at the Hot Springs last year, and, did return to score the Grade 3 Count Fleet Sprint. So we definitely look forward to, seeing him return. So, the light bulb really did go off when they shortened him up to go just that single turn. So really definitely looking forward to seeing him come back and maybe do a repeat in the Count Fleet again.
Yeah, as I say, he was a nice sprinter last year, and it looks like he's on his way to another good season. All right, let's get to some of the action on Saturday afternoon down at Oaklawn. Let's just go right in chronological order and start out with the Essex. Nice little handicap division race. I think this is a very competitive event, and I was kind of searching for a replay to pull up and give folks an idea of somebody they may want to consider. We had actually talked to Brad Cox earlier today, and he mentioned Leah Frick will be a scratch. Dazzling Gem will run. And the more I look, the more I think it probably goes through Dazzling Gem. But I pulled up a replay from Gulfstream on February 11th. We're going to watch the number 5 hedge fund win for Todd Pletcher. This was off a very long layoff, hadn't been seen since May of last year. Maybe better as a 4-year-old now, but again, this was only the first start of the season and only the 6th start of the career. So hedge fund very lightly raced for Pletcher, but a nice win. Dalmore is in here, untrapped for Steve Asmussen. Multiplier, I think, is interesting, coming in from California for Peter Miller. It's, as I say, a fun, competitive field. What are your thoughts on the Essex?
Well, it's kind of wide open. We do have another scratch of far right, and possibly we may see something come out of Thirst for Life. I did talk to Wes Hawley, and he said something may have gone amiss upon the travel. So maybe something coming out of that one as well.
Right.
So, Dazzling Gem, just always super impressive. I loved this horse last year. When we got to see him, did run 5th, but only beaten 2 3/4 lengths in the 5th season. So I really do like Dazzling Gem. He's always just super on his game, and was in that 6th-length victory in that money allowance here back in mid-February. But Todd's always known for kind of sneaking those ones in here that come out of those allowance races down in Florida. So hedge fund, really impressive. Untrapped from the barn of Steve Asmussen, a graded 6 winner in his own right. Kind of had a little bit of a trouble trip last go in that grade 3 Razorback, was the beaten favorite. Steadied in the stretch. He's 5 for 7 in the money at 1 mile and a 16th, yet winless in those 5. So it's kind of an all-over race. So it's going to be real interesting to see how that pace. But the pace has been really, really hot. They did great the track yesterday and roll it. They rolled it again today. So I think we are going to see speed really, really carry throughout not only today's card, but tomorrow for Saturday for the stakes as well.
That's good to know, because there have definitely been, as I've done the handicapping show in here over the past few weeks, there have been some afternoons where they turn into the stretch, and from there it's just they go 1, 2, 3 all the way down the lane. Wherever you are in the stretch, you don't make up much ground. So speed has been conducive on certain afternoons. Yeah,
so I think we're going to see a little bit of that speed carrying over.
All right, let's move on to the Azeri. This is the Fillies and Mares Grade 2 event. $350,000 a mile and a 16th. And I had to pull up the obvious race, the Bayakoa, from February 17th. Streamline's going to be the number 4 horse, getting it done. Terra Promessa will run second on kind of a rebound effort. She threw in a little bit of a dud in the Pippin, but boy, over her career, she has just been an absolute Oaklawn lover. So maybe Terra Promessa back on her game. Again, we talked to Brad Cox earlier. He likes Tiger Moth coming out of that lifetime best buyer figure over at Sam Houston last time. Blue Prize is maybe a little bit interesting on the seasonal debut. Farrell threw in kind of an inexplicable race last time in the Bayakoa.
Yeah, throw out her race. As soon as she got that slop and kicking in her face, she was completely done. I know a lot of people say, well, I don't like to throw a race out, but that is definitely one in Farrell. And, even going into this race, she was going to be a question mark if the track did come up bad. So, fortunately, it looks like we're going to have an off track today. A fast track tomorrow.
And, again, Farrell, it was just a complete aberration, losing badly as the 7-5 favorite. But what are your thoughts in the Azeri?
Well, a big question mark for me is 6-1 on Streamline after coming off that impressive Grade 1 win. Multiple graded stakes winner. She is a double. She won the Azeri last year at 12-1. This is one of the most consistent mares, I think, ever. She's in the money all 10 starts here at Oaklawn and 12 starts at the distance. So anytime you ever want to use a horse in your show parlay, it's got to be Streamline. I mean, I'm just baffled when I saw the morning line. I mean, I know you've got all these amazing fillies and mares come in for this race, and, you always want to give the benefit of the doubt, but there are some super talented horses, but I still think Streamline is not one to use, or not one to throw out, I should say, out of these particular races. Tiger Moth as you mentioned, super impressive, multiple graded stakes winner. She was actually third in the Azeri last year, as we saw Streamline, Terra Promessa returns, and then Tiger Moth. But I tell you what, I certainly cannot throw out Streamline in my top three. I'm not going to do it.
I did not have the morning line, but yeah, I would say 6-1 is a pretty good price on the
mean,
horse
if
coming out of
she
the
goes
win.
off at 6-1, that's your Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Rosh Hashanah, or whatever. I mean, that's your gift
I like
for the
that.
next 3 years.
Gary Stevens on board, having a really good meet on the move down to Oaklawn. All right, let's shift our attention out to the highlight tomorrow. Another step on the Arkansas Derby Trail, progressing obviously to the Triple Crown as well. The Rebel Grade 2 event, and $900,000 up for grabs. My colleague Brian Nadeau, we did a handicapping show earlier, and we talked a little bit about this race. He said it. I didn't think about it, but I'm sure he's right. He said this is the most expensive mile and a 16th race in the world.
I'm going to believe it. And it's interesting is 5 in this event are actually making their stakes debut. Bavert's going to own this race in the last several years. He's won 6 runnings. And he sends in Solomini, and it's interesting because there was a great video of Lucas, of all people, leading this horse off the track on his pony. And Bob Baffert sent in, as we all know now, the ill-fated Marino to win the Smarty Jones. And, you know, Lucas did the saddling honors, and he said, you know, it's great that Lucas was able to tend to my assistant trainer duties. So, yeah, whoever thought you'd have a Hall of Famer assistant for a Hall of Famer, but even though you've got 5 horses making their stakes debut, it's still a really, really deep field. So you've got Magnum Moon again for Todd Pletcher, who's looking for his, we saw Malagasy from his stable last year come in and coming off a really nice allowance at Tampa. There's again that Tampa allowance angle, coming off a really nice bullet work down at Palm Beach, 5 furlongs in a minute and 3/5. But you've got also some really nice ones, talking about D. Wayne Lucas, Sporting Chance, coming off a 3rd in the Southwest. Steve Asmussen has 3 shots to get it done in here. One of those with Combatant, 8-1 shot, a good 2nd in the Southwest. Now, the Southwest was contested over the mud for the first time in its running.
And I'll just interrupt for a second. We're watching the stretch run of the Southwest right now. Number 1, My Boy Jack, slips up the rail. I like Combatant this day, and I thought at the top of the stretch I had made a good call. He'll run 2nd. But Sporting Chance runs 3rd. That was his seasonal debut. And again, I was talking to Brian Nadeau earlier today. He kind of liked Sporting Chance. He thought this was a good seasonal debut. And then I was watching the NYRA pregame show earlier, and Andy Serling also mentioned Sporting Chance as a little bit of a horse to maybe watch, as well as his partner Anthony Stabile. So Sporting Chance, maybe a little wise guy horse on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm kind of liking Sporting Chance. I mean, you'd figure he needed a race under his belt. He was coming off that win in the Grade 1 hopeful. He had a little minor surgery to get a knee chip repaired. Now that he's got that race under his belt, he worked a 4 furlong bullet and 47 flat on the 12th. So I know the coach is going to have him ready, and I'm anxious to ask him about that horse tomorrow. He's my guest for Dawn at Oaklawn. I know he would have preferred more of an inside draw, but I don't think it's going to be a really big concern going a mile and a 16th for him. I think he's going to get a great ride, and it's interesting that he gets Johnny V in the irons for this one as well.
And with Bravazzo, how fun would that be to have Lucas with 2 horses in the Derby?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I mean, 82, 83 years old and still on top of your game. I mean, how much better does it get?
Yeah, really. A fun race, a fun edition of the Rebel tomorrow. Again, we'll be looking forward to seeing you doing the pregame show and then before the races as well. Is Dawn at Oaklawn, is that available online?
You know what? We actually post our Dawn at Oaklawn series on Oaklawn's Facebook page, Oaklawn Racing and Gaming, and they are also on Oaklawn's YouTube channel.
Perfect. So people can check that out every week. That's a Saturday morning thing, correct?
Yes, Saturday morning, and I've asked Wayne for 3 years to be my guest, and it has all come to fruition. It actually took the help of Steve Asmussen to get him to do it.
Wait,
so
what?
I'm very excited.
I have been working on him up at Saratoga, and I can't get him. But to me, to have Asmussen be the go-between, because he's tough to get.
I know.
He doesn't answer my text, that guy.
It all went down at Gary Stevens' birthday party, if you can believe that. There's a story in itself.
Get everybody in a little social atmosphere. Nancy, absolutely, again, appreciate your taking time out of the day on this Friday afternoon to talk a little Saturday action. Good luck to you and everybody down there on the big day.
Thank you so much, Seth. Good
All
luck.
right. Nancy Holthus from Oaklawn Park. Big day highlighted by the Rebel. Thanks to Nancy. Again, we caught her in the afternoon during the racing day yesterday, so appreciate her taking the time to go over some of the stakes action at Oaklawn on this Saturday afternoon. We'll take a break. We'll talk to a guy who has horses in. And again, we caught up with Brad Cox yesterday as well, but he's got some runners in the stakes races at Oaklawn. We'll have that coming up right after this.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back again. We talked with Brad Cox yesterday about his stakes runners at Oaklawn this afternoon. Also some horses you are sure to see in stakes in the next 2 or 3 weeks, including the really, really nice 3-year-old filly, Monomoy Girl. All of that when we caught up with Brad Cox. Happy to be joined by Brad Cox. He has some runners in the stakes at Oaklawn on Saturday afternoon. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Seth. How are you doing?
Very good. Happy to have you on board because we'll talk a little bit about the stakes runners for this afternoon, and then we'll get into some runners that certainly will be showing up later in stakes that are of interest as well. But let's kind of work our way backwards for Saturday afternoon. Let's take a look at the Rebel first. You have High North entered there. And Brad, while we talk, I am going to pull up the Jockey Club, Kentucky Jockey Club from last year, which has turned out to be just crazy productive. Coming out of that race, Enticed, Bravazzo, Promises Fulfilled, Quipped, and now you're coming out of a 4th place finish. I'm going to tell people to keep your eyes sitting kind of towards the back of the pack in the yellow silks is High North. Runs into all kinds of trouble here. Gets kind of jammed up a little bit, and then a jockey loses, a horse loses its jockey, and the loose horse really bothers you guys, so go to the back of the pack. Subsequently, as we watch him come around, he'll go to the rail and wind up to be a very nice 4th. This was a graded stakes try out of a maiden special weight event. Go back to last year in this Kentucky Jockey Club and tell me how impressed you were with the performance.
Yeah, I was a very, very impressed with the performance. Corey Lantern came back and thought a lot of the effort and said, he thought he'd be right there if he would have had a clean trip. We obviously, it was encouraging moving forward. We gave him a little time following that. We brought him back in the Risen Star. But it was a great race. He overcome some things. And obviously, being there at Churchill, it was a big effort.
Yeah, we're watching it, and they're coming around the turn, and he's still in the back. But as they say, he's going to get a nice rail skimming ride and come up and be a very nice 4th in here. And as I say, subsequently, the third place finisher, Promises Fulfilled, came out of this and followed up with the stakes win this year. Quip, of course, over at Tampa Bay Bravazzo. But Enticed came out of this and had the race in Florida that wasn't so promising, and then came back last week in New York and rebounded nicely. You also have had one race since, the Risen Star. It was a fifth place finish, so I'm assuming you're looking for the Enticed kind of situation here. But fill us in on the Risen Star, the fifth place finish, the seasonal debut.
Yeah, he got a good trip. Corey Lannery rode him again that day, and he got a real good trip inside, saved all the ground. Was a little maybe disappointed he didn't, when they straightened up, he didn't kick on a little bit more than he did. But, I think maybe could have needed the race off the short layoff. He's kind of flattened out a little bit late, so we're hoping he got something out of the race. I tell you that he's had two tremendous breezes since that effort at the fairgrounds, and is doing really well. And honestly, after that race there at the fairgrounds in the Risen Star, kind of thinking we'd come back first level allowance race. But the way this Colts breezed the last 2 weekends, we're going into this race with a lot of confidence. And he does need to improve again. But the way he's training, we definitely think possibly he could.
As you say, you've been training down at the fairgrounds. What was the decision process between here and the race next week down there?
Mr. John Ed Anthony obviously is an Arkansas resident, does like to race there. We just thought we would, he was training so well here at the fairgrounds, and we thought first race off the layoff we would just leave him right here and leave him here at the fairgrounds, let him get that race underneath of him, and then the whole plan was to get him down to Arkansas at some point, and that's just kind of how things unfolded. It's a big purse, obviously $900,000, and take a shot at it. But he is doing very well going into this.
And it has been productive on the Derby Trail as well, that Arkansas pre-Derby trail. All right, let's go a little bit earlier. The Azeri on the card for the Fillies and Mares, mile and 16th, grade 2 event. You have Tiger Moth in. Tiger Moth ran third in this race last year, but we're going to go back and look at the Houston Ladies Classic towards the end of January. Tiger Moth is going to be the number 8 horse. Florent Giraud on board that day, scheduled to be on board again Saturday afternoon. Nice gutsy win, gets up late to win by a neck at 17-1. But Brad, as a buyer's guy, I noticed it was a lifetime best buyer of 93. Has she just gotten good right now?
Yeah, she's really good. She was really doing well going into that race. Come out of it in good order, give her plenty of time to recover. She obviously is familiar with Oak Lawn Park. She's been training at the fairgrounds, keep her at the fairgrounds this winter to train her, prep, did all of her work for the Sam Houston race at the fairgrounds, so we didn't want to change anything there. She shipped up to Oak Lawn. But she's training extremely well. She's a mare, obviously. You can't really take her out of her running style. You just kind of let her fall out of there, do her thing, save as much ground as you can, fan her off the turn, and get her out in the middle of the track. She seems to do her best running that way. So, things got to set up, things got to unfold. We got to have things kind of fall apart up front. If they do, she'll be in the mix. She's doing very well. She's gotten better with age and better with racing, and like you said, a lifetime best at the age of 6, and she really seems to be, doing as well as she ever has.
Yeah, winner of well over $600,000, and she's coming in very good form. Tiger Moth in the Azeri. Let's take a look at the Essex. You have a couple in here, so we'll take them one by one. And in the Essex, you have Dazzling Gem and Leofric. We're going to take a look first at Dazzling Gem. And this one ran in this race last year, was 4th, but with a nice triple-digit buyer number, so that certainly bodes well. Also, and again, I'm a buyer guy. The buyers are moving in the right direction. We're going to take a look at an allowance victory last time with a 98 buyer that, again, has been a progression over the last 3, moving in the right direction. Dazzling Gem's going to be the number 1 horse here. Win off by 6 is the 1-2 favorite. As we can see, it was a muddy, sealed track that day. Do you know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow at Oak Lawn? What's the anticipation? Fast track.
They're getting some rain today, but
okay.
I think we should be okay tomorrow. I think it's going to be 75 and sunny, so we should be good to go tomorrow. We should have a fast track tomorrow.
So what are your expectations for Dazzling Gem? Again, we saw the nice performance right there on an off track, but he has run well on a fast track also. So coming into this race, your thoughts on Dazzling Gem?
Well, he's obviously doing well. He showed that last time, 3rd race off the layoff, put a big buyer up. it was a little bit of a funny track last time. They didn't finish all that fast. He didn't finish all that fast, but the track was just kind of really nasty that day. It's muddy, sloppy. But he's coming out of the race in good shape. He's moving well. A little bit of a funny horse to ride. It's always good to have a jock had some success on him, back on him. He's just going to be a little bit of a difficult horse to ride. Just kind of trick the rider sometimes to make them think he's got a little more horse than they do. But I'm glad Gary's back on him. He's training well, and the expectations is to get him to the winner's circle. We actually will scratch Leo Frick. He will not race.
Okay, all right.
So some time there in the handicappers.
I was going to ask you if they were the same owner, and I was going to make you pick one because it's the same owner. You can probably do that.
Yeah, right. But no, we just kind of we just thought we would enter, just take a look, and just hadn't decided as of a couple of days ago when we did enter as to what we were going to do, but it's kind of played out where we're going to scratch Leo Frick and that.
What do you think is next for Leo Frick? Because he comes out of a good second place finish in the Razorback.
Yeah, we got a couple options moving forward with him. We'll maybe look at the New Orleans Handicap at the Fairgrounds the following weekend, or possibly the Oaklawn Handicap the middle of April at Oaklawn. So he's obviously is a horse. Of course, he loves the oval there in Hot Springs. He's had 4 wins and 1 second, 5 starts. So he does like that racetrack, but he will not run tomorrow. We just kind of wait for either the race at the Fairgrounds or
okay. Good info. All right, so there's what you have on Saturday afternoon. But boy, you have some nice runners that I'm sure are coming up in the coming weeks. I wanted to touch on those, and we'll start right off with the star, because boy, she was impressive in the Rachel Alexandra. We're going to take a look at Monomoy Girl, and in last weekend's Kentucky Oaks Future Pool, she wound up the co-favorite among the individual choices at 6-1. All others was 5-1, but she was the co-favorite with Midnight Bijou. We're going to go back and look at that Rachel Alexandra, and we're going to pull up right from the start because the chart says hit gate. And she does subsequently, she is the 8 horse in here. She does subsequently go to kind of the back of the pack, which was a little bit different for her. Was that the game plan, to kind of teach her to settle maybe a little bit and be able to come from a little bit off of it? Because again, that was new. Or was it a factor of the circumstances coming out of the gate?
Totally circumstance.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no.
Worked out well.
Her break. Yeah, no, we didn't expect her to break that sloppy. It did look like her hind end may have slipped out from behind her a little bit or something. But nevertheless, I mean, she broke last. I was very concerned going into the first turn. We obviously do want her to relax and set off horses. That's what we were looking for. We actually thought we would be setting right off of Brett Calhoun's filly into Mischief Filly going into the first turn. But, obviously it didn't work out that way. And, good horses overcome hurdles, and she did, because that really has not been her running style on the dirt. It's been up close or on the lead. So, it was not drawn up like that, but it did work out well. She overcome the slow start and made an impressive move around the turn. Came out of the race really, really well, and we're looking at the Ashland at Keeneland. First, I believe it's April 7th at Keeneland. It's a grade 1, and that's our goal right now.
Interesting. So not next week at Fairgrounds. You're going to head to Keeneland with her.
Yeah. She's going to go to Keeneland. She'll do most of her breezing here at the Fairgrounds. She'll go up to Keeneland hopefully for 1 breeze, and then we're going to go into Ashland. That's the plan.
And we're watching them come under the wire now. Really impressive stretch runner. She kind of made the move on the turn and wins off what the chart margin is 2.5 lengths. But about the 8th pole, she does duck out a little bit. Any concerns there?
Well, she is a little bit of a little bit of a quirky filly.
Okay.
I think that's the Taffet line in her. But she's very talented, and she's obviously a 3-year-old filly. I mean, she's got some learning to do, and an amazing amount of talent. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a concern, but I think she'll grow up with racing experience. The more times we take her over there, the hopefully straighter and more focused she'll become. But as far as the way she's running, I don't think we need to change any equipment or anything. We just kind of keep keep things the way they are right now, and just she'll continue to hopefully improve and progress.
And obviously the game plan is Kentucky Oaks, if all goes well
Absolutely.
at Keeneland.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's totally the game plan, and this will be obviously right now. If we make the Ashland, the Oaks would be the third race off the layoff. So we would hopefully be peaking and have her at her best.
All right, I want to touch on another horse, one that I liked last year. I every year I follow and think that kind of subdivision of 3-year-olds on the turf is a lot of fun, and you had Arklow last year. Tried the dirt trail, and obviously if you have a talented 3-year-old, that's the game plan, but subsequently moved to the turf at Keeneland about this time last year and broke the maiden on the turf, then won the American turf over at Churchill Downs. Subsequently took a break after finishing 7th in the Hall of Fame right up in our neighborhood at Saratoga. What was the reason for the time off?
I just come out of the race. Came out of the race with, just were bothered and no surgeries or anything. Just a little tuned up, not happy with the way he was moving after the race. We just decided to give him a break. We did. Feet were bothering him a little bit. We just backed off of him, just give him some time at the farm. Brought him back, and he returned obviously off the layoff with a victory at the fairgrounds in a second level allowance race, doing extremely well. We're looking at trying him in the Muniz next weekend, the 24th.
Yeah, we have the stretch run of that comeback race. It was February 24th, and Arklow is going to be the number 1 horse. And again, it's a nice late run to get up by a nose. Nice gutsy performance. And I assume, because I pulled up the nominations, and he was nominated to the Muniz. So that's the game plan next week. The stakes return for.
Yes, that's the plan right now. Is to enter him. We actually enter tomorrow, but we'll enter him in the Muniz and see how it comes up and take a shot. If all goes well, it'd be nice to return to Churchill, Kentucky Derby Day with the race before the Kentucky Derby, the mile and 1/8 race. I believe they changed the name of it, but the Grade 1 $500,000 race, that would ultimately be the goal.
Very good, and as I say, I liked him last year, so looking forward to the season this year. And Brad, before we let you go, it dawned on me as I was prepping last night, got to ask you, because I was sitting in here doing the handicapping program back on March 3rd and watched Exclamation Point win that first level allowance optional claiming race. That was the second start of the career. Exclamation Point is a sibling to Classic Empire. Classic Empire, of course, won the Arkansas Derby last year, was second in the Preakness. So certainly have some very good bloodlines. And now 2 for 2. And that last race at Oaklawn, Exclamation Point went a mile, so has 2 turns under the belt. What is the game plan now for Exclamation Point, who has the potential to be a really nice, talented 3-year-old?
Well, right now we're looking at either the Lexington and Keeneland or the Northern Spur at Oaklawn the middle of April. He's doing really well. Come out of his last race in good shape, and we did run him back a little quick. I believe it was right at 4 weeks. So we thought give him a little time before his third start. The timing of the Northern Spur, the Lexington, obviously that's going to be a step up, and that'll give him plenty of time to prepare for it, be ready, and have his feet back underneath of him. But those are the 2 races we have on our radar right now. We're not going to go. We're not thinking Arkansas Derby or trying to make the Kentucky Derby or anything like that. So we're just going to let him develop at his pace and his speed, and take it a race at a time. But he's a nice colt. We think a lot of him, and hopefully he'll turn into a nice 3-year-old or a better, bigger, stronger, faster 3-year-old as the year goes on.
Is it play by ear thing, as you say? You're taking your time, and so there are plenty of things out there. Up here at the Saratoga, we hope horses like this show up at the Travers. But is the Preakness maybe out there if you're not going to make the Derby?
It would be possible if he was to show up in the race that in April at Fairgrounds. I'm sorry, Oaklawn or Keeneland, and he was impressive, and the figures come back right, and the timing was right. We would definitely consider the Preakness, but once again, he would have to tell us. He would have to show us he's good enough to take that next step.
All right, Exclamation Point again, sibling to Classic Empire, so one we'll watch for moving along this 3-year-old season. Before I let you go, now I have to ask, because I'm always intrigued with trainers, and you mentioned it. If the figures come back right, you said, what figures do you use as a trainer?
Well, the Ragusan Sheets is probably the one I go to the most. We use buyers, get some people that use Storograph as well. So we're familiar with a lot of different types of numbers, but I guess my go-to number would probably be the Ragusan Sheet. It's something we use and we look at to evaluate talent and overall performance. It seems to be a very reliable number for us.
Sure. All right, Brad, appreciate the visit this morning. Always appreciate when trainers take the time to come on with us. Certainly wish you a lot of good luck Saturday afternoon at Oaklawn, and beyond as well with some of the horses, and particularly Monomoy Girl, who I think a very, very nice 3-year-old filly heading to the Kentucky Oaks. Again, congratulations. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks for having me, and good luck this weekend.
Brad Cox, set for a big afternoon at Oaklawn and beyond, so we appreciate the visit.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.